Early one Sunday morning, in mid-April of 2018, a group of thieves attempted to steal an ATM from a Pasadena, Texas courthouse. Surveillance footage showed a stolen pickup truck forcefully back it into the courthouse, where the suspects tried to secure a tow rope to the ATM and yank it out of its place. They quickly discovered that the machine was anchored more securely in place than they had assumed it would be and gave up on their efforts to steal it, leaving a huge mess of debris behind at the scene. A man who was seen exiting the truck somehow got locked out of the getaway vehicle, prompting him to jump into the truck bed before the vehicle sped off. 3 days later, the same group of suspects returned to the same courthouse and tried to steal the ATM using the same methods that had failed during their first attempt. Perhaps not surprisingly, the second try was no more successful than the first, and the wannabe thieves once again gave up and left the scene. Following the second botched robbery, authorities revealed that they had located the stolen pickup truck, but they were still trying to identify the man who was seen in the security footage. It's unclear whether any arrests were ever made. Number 18. Letitia Brost. A TikToker from Connecticut learned the hard way how not to put out a grease fire in May of 2024 when she accidentally caused a stovetop fire to blow up in her face. Letitia Brost was filming a video of herself cooking in her kitchen when the pan she was using suddenly erupted in flames. She could be heard saying, "What do I do?" in a terrified voice as she tried to extinguish the blaze with water, which caused the sudden formation of a huge fireball. Brost chucked the flaming pan, which narrowly missed her dog, and ran into her living room where she tripped and fell onto the floor. She was relieved when she realized that the fire was going out on its own and shared the footage on social media as a cautionary tale to others about not using water to extinguish a grease fire. In simple terms, doing so causes the water to sink beneath the grease, pushing the grease to the surface and causing it to rapidly vaporize. This results in a type of fireball that was seen in Brost's video. Luckily for Brost, the incident did not damage her apartment and she only suffered second-degree burns. Knowing the situation could have ended much worse, she was thankful that she had learned her lesson without burning her house down or suffering any severe injuries. Number 17. Dejan Jeezy Mullah McBean. While locked up on a gang charge in 2023, 29-year-old real right leader Dejan Jeezy Mullah McBean ordered a hit on a rival gang member on the outside over a social media beef. He paid 26-year-old Carl Pacavell Smith and 23-year-old Chelsea Miss Chin Harris to lure the intended victim to a New York City nightclub in order to carry out the hit, but the hired assassins accidentally killed an innocent bystander. The victim, 28-year-old mother of one, Clarissa Burgos, was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time when the suspects approached her boyfriend's car on Christmas Eve and opened fire on her. They meant to kill the woman's 39-year-old boyfriend, but Burgos was fatally struck in the head amid the onslaught of bullets. Clarissa's boyfriend was shot 6 times in the torso, but survived his injuries after driving to a nearby police station for help. Following the botched hit, investigators discovered that McBean had ordered the hit from federal prison using a contraband cell phone. Additionally, several days before Clarissa's murder, Smith and Harris had shot at the intended victim but missed. In October 2024, federal prosecutors charged McBean, Smith, and Harris with murder for hire, conspiracy resulted in personal injury and death, stalking resulted in life-threatening bodily injury and death, and conspiracy to destroy records. If convicted as charged, the defendants could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 16. Micah Voorhans. 21-year-old Dutch national Micah Voorhans caught the attention of law enforcement while trying to board the Channel Tunnel in France in December 2023. Border officers noticed a suspicious bulge in the wood paneling of his van and conducted an additional search. Hidden beneath the poorly positioned paneling, they found 100 kilograms of ketamine, a popular party drug that has been increasingly abused by young people in recent years. Voorhans denied any knowledge of the drugs, claiming that he had rented the van to pick up a used motorcycle for a friend of a friend. He told the National Crime Agency that someone else had installed the paneling and that its purpose was to protect the van from damage. But further investigation revealed that Voorhans had bought the paneling himself, along with a tape measure. Additionally, a video found in his phone showed the paneling being installed, indicating that he was well aware of the illicit cargo underneath it. Voorhans had even sought help with the installation in a series of Snapchat posts, further strengthening the criminal case against him. But he eventually stopped trying to sell his cover story to law enforcement, and in October 2024, Voorhans pleaded guilty to importing Class B drugs. He was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison. Number 15. Joshua and Anthony Gamble. after noticing a car parked along a roadside in rural Bucks County, Pennsylvania, with its hazard lights on late at night, June of 2021. State troopers assumed that the vehicle was disabled and pulled over to help. They noticed that there was another car parked nearby without its hazard lights on and began to investigate the scene. A trooper noticed a man lying on the ground in a nearby wooded area and called out to him, but he didn't respond. When the trooper got closer, he noticed that the man had blood on his shoes and was wearing plastic work gloves. Police were in the process of detaining the suspect, later identified as 17-year-old Joshua David Gamble of Somerset, New Jersey, when they heard someone running nearby. A second suspect, later identified as Joshua's brother, 19-year-old Anthony Joel Gamble, emerged from the woods and ran toward one of the parked cars. He was stopped by the troopers, who noticed that he also had blood on his clothing and a pair of plastic work gloves in his pocket. While searching Anthony's car, law enforcement found a substantial amount of blood and a knife, at which point they decided to call for backup. On top of one of the cars, they found a container of sanitizing wipes. Troopers proceeded to search the nearby forest, where they found the murdered remains of a 26-year-old New Jersey resident and Rutgers University graduate named Kevin Rosero. The victim had been stabbed 28 times in the face, neck, torso, and upper extremities. While the circumstances surrounding Rosero's death were unclear, it appeared as though he had been killed at the scene. It would later be revealed that the Gamble brothers had murdered Rosero in a botched robbery for $400. In November 2022, Joshua Gamble pleaded guilty to robbery, conspiracy to commit robbery, theft, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse. 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. Anthony Gamble pleaded guilty to third-degree murder and criminal conspiracy to commit robbery in 2023 and was sentenced to 25 to 55 years in prison. Number 14. Shafi Sharaf. In March of 2023, an Air India Express crew member named Shafi Sharaf was caught trying to smuggle nearly 3.3 pounds of undeclared gold through customs by hiding it under his work uniform. He taped the gold to his forearms, hoping it would go unnoticed as he passed through a designated security area for travelers with no goods to declare. If everything went according to plan, Sharaf would transport the hidden gold from Bahrain to the Indian city of Kochi without anyone noticing, but someone tipped off customs and Sharaf was questioned by officials after the flight touched down in Kochi. Following Sharaf's arrest, Air India Express released a statement confirming that the rogue employee had been fired and making it clear that the airline had a zero-tolerance policy towards smuggling. Number 13. Francisco Herrera Argueta. In May of 2017, a convicted murderer and gang leader was caught trying to escape from a men's prison in Honduras while dressed as a woman. Also known as Don Chico, 55-year-old Francisco Herrera Argueta had been imprisoned since late 2015 when he tried to make his getaway. Clad in a blonde wig, sunglasses, a long skirt, and a fake bosom, he attempted to walk out of the maximum security facility during a designated family visiting day. He even wore blush and painted his fingernails pink, hoping to successfully impersonate a woman who was actually visiting the prison and had left her ID with security at the check-in desk. Guards noticed that Argueta was walking strangely, and they were quick to discover that his voice sounded suspiciously masculine, but Argueta managed to pass through multiple security checkpoints before he tried retrieving the ID that belonged to the visiting woman he was impersonating. Noticing that something seemed off, a guard asked him to remove his sunglasses. At that point, it became obvious that he was an imposter, according to a police spokesperson who later said the makeup couldn't hide the fact that he was a man. Number 12. Hector Velasquez Maldonado. In early December of 2024, a 32-year-old Virginia man named Hector D. Velasquez was arrested for trying to steal from a Chesterfield County Walmart during its annual Shop with a Cop event. The store was crawling with nearly 50 cops who were there to buy Christmas gifts for needy local children, and there were between 30 and 40 marked police vehicles in the parking lot, making law enforcement's presence more than a little obvious. But this didn't stop Maldonado, who allegedly tried leaving the store with $1,400 worth of unpaid merchandise in his possession as the officers helped the kids pick out their presents. Surveillance cameras captured footage of the accused thief attempting to hide bulky items on his person as he made his way toward the exit. Employees didn't have to go far to alert the authorities when they noticed Maldonado's suspicious behavior, and the officers immediately began searching for the suspect. They quickly located Maldonado, who reportedly tried to escape out a back entrance as two cops approached him from opposite directions. He was apprehended at the scene and is now facing a felony grand larceny charge. Local officials described Maldonado as a serial shoplifter with multiple open cases and an active warrant at the time of his latest arrest. Upon locating Maldonado's car in the parking lot, officers discovered that the vehicle was directly facing the multitude of police vehicles that were also parked outside the store, leading one official to speculate that the suspect must have known that there were cops at the store, but that it just didn't matter to him. Number 11. Anthony Sanchez III. After receiving reports about an erratic driver causing multiple accidents and firing gunshots along Highway 50 in Otero County, Colorado in June of 2023, police from multiple agencies attempted to pull the driver over. Later identified as 31-year-old Anthony Alfonso Sanchez III, the suspect led law enforcement on a high-speed chase which lasted for 37 miles before an officer disabled the fleeing motorist's car using a pit maneuver. The pit maneuver caused Sanchez's vehicle to spin out, giving the cops an opportunity to surround him and take him into custody. Sanchez was handcuffed and placed in the back of a Colorado Highway Patrol cruiser where he was left alone while officers worked the scene. Just minutes later, Sanchez managed to wriggle free from his handcuffs and slipped into the driver's seat of the police car. He stepped on the gas and sped off, taking the police by complete surprise. The events were captured on dash and body cam footage, which showed the stolen patrol car speeding off as one of the officers at the scene said, "Oh, As soon as they realized what was happening, the cops wasted no time chasing after Sanchez, reaching speeds of over 100 miles per hour in their attempts to catch up with him. Officers further down the highway laid stop sticks in anticipation of the suspect passing through. After driving over the sticks, Sanchez lost control of the stolen cruiser and crashed into an 18-wheeler that was stopped along the highway. The semi-truck driver was unharmed, but the police car spun out and burst into flames, gravely wounding Sanchez. He was rushed to the hospital where he died from his injuries. A camera inside the stolen vehicle captured video of the fatal collision, which showed the car slamming into the semi just moments after running over the stop sticks. The deafening sound of the crash could be heard as the screen went black. During his initial arrest, Sanchez had claimed that his girlfriend tried to shoot him, but the details of the situation that preceded the crash and the reasons for his erratic behavior remain unclear. Number 10. Wanda Holloway. On New Year's Eve in 1991, 37-year-old Wanda Holloway was arrested in Channelview, Texas, for trying to hire a hitman to kill the mother of her daughter's cheerleading rival. The church-going mother was determined to help her daughter land a spot at Alice Johnson Junior High School, and she believed that this would happen if the teen's biggest competition, Amber Heath, was too distraught over her mother Verna's death to try out for the squad. In her efforts to hire an assassin, Holloway contacted her brother-in-law Terry Harper, thinking he might be able or willing to help find a qualified candidate for the job. Harper played along with the plot, but quietly contacted law enforcement afterward. An investigation was launched and Harper proceeded to wear a wire during a subsequent meeting with Holloway at a Pasadena motel. Holloway thought that she and Harper were meeting to seal the deal on the murder-for-hire plot, but police were listening in the whole time. As soon as the agreement was solidified, symbolizing Holloway's intent to follow through with having Verna Heath killed, cops swarmed the scene and led her away in handcuffs. In a case that garnered national attention, earning Holloway the nickname of the Pom-Pom Mom, she was charged with solicitation of capital murder. She was found guilty at trial and sentenced to 14 years in prison, but her case was overturned. Instead of going to trial for a second time, Holloway pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 10 years behind bars. She was released on probation after serving just 6 months. The more than 30-year-old case received renewed attention in the 2024 HBO Max documentary, The Texas Cheerleader Murder Plot. In it, Holloway's daughter spoke out about the case for the first time as an adult. Shauna Holloway, who's now 47 years old, said she felt humiliated, ashamed, and traumatized by her mother's crime. She struggled with severe depression for years, but eventually found happiness. Despite her mother's conviction, Shauna defended Wanda, who she believes wanted to back out of the murder-for-hire plot but was set up by Terry Harper. She denied that her mother is crazy or evil, stating she's human and she's got her good days and bad days just like everybody else. Number 9. Robert Langlace and Tanisha Ibe.
Hey, somebody ran! Somebody ran! What's up?
I was walking my dog a little while ago.
Yeah.
I heard some screaming. I looked up, and that back house, a guy
On the
went
roof.
down. Yeah, he went down the chimney.
He's in the chimney?
He's in the chimney.
Hey! He's in the chimney.
What chimney? What chimney?
That house, in the chimney. He went in. Neighbor said he went in the chimney, one of them.
You're an idiot.
Get up.
Show us your hand right now.
Show us your hand. Tell him to send rescue. Rob. Yeah. You can breathe fine though, right?
Can you breathe fine?
On what began as an ordinary Tuesday night in December 2024, police in Fall River, Massachusetts, descended upon a local residence with plans to execute a search warrant. When they arrived at the address, they noticed 33-year-old Robert Langlace and 32-year-old Tanisha Ibe trying to stealthily escape via the building's rooftop. Ibe jumped onto a car below, while Langlace made the infinitely less wise decision to dive down the chimney. His whereabouts were discovered by some passers-by, who saw him enter the chimney and heard him screaming for help. Officers climbed onto the roof and shined their flashlights down into the chimney where they found Langlace. He was hopelessly stuck, leaving him with no choice but to accept help from the same members of law enforcement that he was trying to avoid crossing paths with when he became trapped just minutes earlier. Left with no other choice, the officers dismantled the chimney brick by brick until they were able to extract Langlace from the tight space. After being checked out at the hospital, Langlace was booked into custody on multiple outstanding warrants along with 2 drug possession charges. Police also caught up with Ibe, who was also charged with drug possession. Number 8. Garrett Petticord. U.S. Army veteran Garrett Petticord was working on some back orders at the jewelry store he owns in Omaha, Nebraska. One night in May of 2024, when a burglar broke into the business at around 11:30 p.m. As soon as he heard the sound of glass shattering, Petticord looked up at his surveillance monitors and saw the culprit entering through a broken window. The suspect had smashed the window with a rock. Without a second thought, Petticord grabbed his handgun, jumped out of his chair, emerged from the back room where he was working and pointed the gun while yelling at the intruder, who was standing over a case of some of the store's most valuable jewelry. That was all it took for the suspect to change his mind about robbing the store and scurry out the window he had just climbed in through. Petticord later shared the security footage which showed the business owner confronting the burglar, clad head to toe in all black. The suspect could be seen turning around and running away with his hands up the moment he realized the barrel of a gun was pointed at his face. Speaking with local station KETV after the incident, Petticord credited his military firearm training for helping him react to the intrusion in an effective but responsible manner. While he never saw combat during the 3 years he spent serving in Afghanistan, the training nevertheless came in handy when he least expected it to. At the same time, Petticord said he felt disappointed that he even had to use his gun in the first place, and that he had hoped the need would never arise. Number 7. The Gumball Bandit. In 2018, footage of a California man's attempt to steal an oversized gumball machine from an animal shelter in Sacramento went viral. In the video, the culprit could be seen entering the Front Street animal shelter through a broken pane in the door and grabbing the large machine, which was noticeably taller than him. The moment the intruder touched the machine, the lid to the candy dispenser fell off. Instead of putting it back on, he repeatedly kicked the door in an apparent attempt to knock out some more of the glass and create an opening large enough to fit the contraption through. He then tried cramming the machine through the opening but couldn't get the machine to budge. The suspect then crawled backwards through the opening and tried to pull the gumball machine outside, even though it was obviously too large to fit through the hole. Then, after noticing the shelter had a back door, the man effortlessly carried the machine outside, but the backyard was fenced in, and he struggled to get the machine over the barbed wire fence surrounding the property. He eventually succeeded, but after all the abuse the machine took throughout the theft, it was probably in poor condition. Shortly after the incident, the shelter released the security footage in hopes that members of the public would be able to help identify the suspect. It's unclear whether any arrests were ever made in the case. Number 6. Patreon Stokes. During the summer of 2017, a sheriff's deputy in Marion County, Florida, pulled over a 26-year-old driver named Patreon Alexander Stokes for speeding during the early morning hours. During the traffic stop, the deputy discovered drugs and a large amount of cash in Stokes' possession, including methamphetamine, heroin, and crack cocaine. The suspect also had a scale in his vehicle and a 7-month-old child in the front passenger seat. By the time Stokes was transported to the police station for processing, however, the cash had mysteriously disappeared. It began to reappear in the form of $20 bills that fell from his rear end, in what was later described as a necessary but undesirable process for everyone involved. Staff members recovered $1,090 from the suspect's rectal cavity. Stokes was charged with smuggling contraband into a detention facility, trafficking methamphetamine, trafficking heroin, possession of cocaine with intent to sell, manufacture or deliver, possession of drug equipment, and possession of marijuana. Records show that the charges were ultimately dropped due to a lack of prosecution. Number 5. Jacob Smart. In January 2024, an accused burglar and transient made national news headlines for his arguably unusual break-in habits during a spate of property crimes in Idaho, which included rearranging one of his victims' furniture before fleeing the scene. 38-year-old Jacob Smart fell under law enforcement's suspicions after security cameras captured footage of him committing multiple home burglaries throughout Boise. In the videos, the suspect could be seen calmly entering the targeted residences and wandering around their properties, seemingly without a care in the world. Smart was even seen petting a victim's dog in the person's yard during one trespassing incident. He was also accused of kicking victims' doors in on several occasions in order to gain entry into their homes, where he stole their debit and credit cards, underwear, and other personal belongings. In one incident, the intruder was seen making off with the homeowner's house keys only to return at a later date. He tried entering the house using the keys, but the owners had already changed the locks. Investigators connected Smart to 5 burglaries in Boise and believe he may have committed similar crimes elsewhere. He was still at large in early 2024 when the authorities announced that they were still looking for him and warned the public that he was considered armed and dangerous. Police in Oregon had recently attempted to apprehend Smart, but he managed to flee the scene uncaptured, leaving behind some of the Boise victims' stolen belongings. At the time, there was a national $500,000 extraditable warrant out for Smart's arrest. He managed to stay on the run until late February, when he was arrested in Cowlitz County, Washington, bringing his months-long crime spree to a long-awaited end. As of December 2024, Smart remains held at the Cowlitz County Jail. Amid ongoing criminal cases in Washington state, he's also facing charges in Idaho, where he has yet to be extradited to face justice. Number 4. Madeline Scott. What began as a routine 4 a.m. traffic stop for failing to use a turn signal ended in a major drug bust in 2020, when 23-year-old Madeline Scott was caught with a copious amount of illicit substances in Melbourne, Australia. After spotting a methamphetamine pipe in the young woman's purse, officers proceeded to search the car. They found a bucket of the assault drug, gamma hydroxybutyrate, better known as GHB, as well as methamphetamine and a large amount of cash. Officers also found drug-selling supplies, including Ziploc baggies and scales. During the search, Scott accused the police of targeting her because she was an addict. She also tried deleting messages off her phone in a rushed fashion, but was stopped by one of the officers. Scott eventually admitted to selling drugs and reportedly claimed that she became a dealer after she stopped using Instagram, where she had supposedly posted upwards of 20,000 selfies. She also revealed that she turned to dealing in order to support her own habit, and that she didn't make much of a profit off her new trade. Based on phone evidence, investigators estimated that she had been selling drugs for about 6 weeks, leading up to her arrest. After initially refusing to cooperate with police, Scott continued to offer up information. She explained that while most of her clients were local, she would travel farther distances for bigger sales, and that she had bought the bucket of GHB in order to make fewer trips to Melbourne to replenish her inventory. Scott said she gave up Instagram cold turkey, as if selling drugs somehow cured her of the social media addiction. But the only things that she can truly credit her illegal activity for are a criminal record for commercial drug trafficking and the 3-year sentence that followed, along with a requirement to serve at least 18 months of her term in prison before becoming eligible for parole. Scott could be seen crying during her sentencing hearing as she learned her fate, even though her punishment was minimal compared to the 25-year term she could have faced. While handing down the sentence, the judge blamed Scott's deadbeat ex-boyfriend for getting her hooked on drugs. He noted that the defendant seemed genuinely remorseful and cited her lack of prior convictions as a factor in determining her punishment. Number 3. Vanessa Guerra. An accused car thief in Minnesota foolishly implicated herself in one of her crimes by boasting about it in her diary, which is now being used as evidence against her in criminal court. 30-year-old Vanessa Guerra of Mankato wrote, "Totally stole a car today," in her journal on August 12, 2024. The same day, a 2004 Ford Freestar minivan was stolen and resold for parts in the same area. Police first learned about the theft of the minivan after receiving a call from a scrapyard owner in Blue Earth County who had paid Guerra $2,000 for the vehicle. The owner had figured out that the van was stolen, and his employees were able to identify Guerra as the woman who sold it to the scrapyard. Detectives found Guerra's diary throughout their investigation of the case. The entry about the stolen minivan went on to say that she had never thought of stealing a vehicle and that she was super freaking out about it. When confronted by law enforcement, Guerra denied any knowledge that the van was stolen, But to police, the evidence had already spoken for itself, and in December 2024, Guerra was charged with theft and a felony count of receiving stolen property. The case is ongoing. Today's topic was requested by Silver Gloves. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Food delivery truck stolen with worker inside. Shortly before 4:30 a.m. on November 15th, 2024, police in Milwaukee, Oregon responded to a call about a food delivery truck that had just been stolen from a warehouse parking lot with one of the company's workers inside. Employees were loading the running vehicle for the day outside the Elephant's Delicatessen headquarters when a man who did not work at the facility suddenly jumped inside. As the 29-year-old suspect climbed into the cab and stepped on the gas, an employee was left with no choice but to jump out of the back of the truck in order to avoid being inadvertently kidnapped. The worker, Esmeralda, later told local station KGW8 that she knew she was in a bad situation when she felt the truck speeding up. As soon as the vehicle slowed down at a railroad crossing, she jumped out. Thanks to her quick thinking, she suffered only minor injuries. Responding police officers were initially unable to locate the stolen truck even though it was equipped with a GPS device. The truck was located in Portland later that day, and the suspect was arrested on charges of unauthorized use of a vehicle, reckless endangering, attempt to elude, hit and run, unlawful possession of methamphetamine, kidnapping, criminal mischief, theft, and fraudulent use of a credit card. Our previous episode about when bribing goes painfully wrong is lined up right after number 1, so stick around if you missed that one. Number 1. Gunpoint robbery proposal. In January 2024, a Colombian man decided to propose to his girlfriend in a way that very few had ever proposed marriage before. He made sure to capture the moment on video, which showed the couple pulling up to an intersection in a red car. The vehicle was quickly blocked by a pedestrian and a motorcycle, initially making it appear as though someone was about to rob or carjack the pair. 2 pretend assailants approached the car and ordered the couple to exit the vehicle. In the meantime, 2 more men pulled up on a motorcycle and joined in on the holdup, with one of them holding what looked like a small gun. The strangers forced the man and his terrified girlfriend out of the car, and 2 men forced the man to his knees in the middle of the street, at which point he pulled out a wedding ring. He had staged the proposal as an armed robbery, giving a whole new meaning to the term shotgun wedding. As soon as she saw the ring, the woman's terror suddenly turned to overwhelming joy. She could be seen holding her hands over her mouth in apparent disbelief, while the surrounding assailants turned well-wishers applauded. The woman playfully slapped her boyfriend for tricking her and tearfully accepted her proposal. Some social media users were impressed by the stunt, with some even describing it as the best proposal ever. Others didn't seem to see the humor, instead commenting on how the proposal seemed to normalize violence and insecurity. Some speculated that the audacious display could have gone horribly awry, while many remarked that they would not be inclined to say yes if their partner asked for their hand in marriage after scaring the living daylights out of them. Number 8. Mark Jones. In November of 2020, Mark Jones was elected as the District Attorney of Muskogee County, Georgia. He officially took office the following January, but only 9 months into his term, Jones was indicted on multiple felony counts in connection to a public corruption scandal. Court documents revealed that the DA had allegedly offered $1,000 bribes to prosecutors and law enforcement officials on several occasions in order to influence various legal cases. One such incident had occurred during the grand jury hearing of Sarah Holtrop, a Hamilton teen who'd accidentally been shot by an acquaintance named Elijah Farrell. While the latter had only been charged with manslaughter, Jones attempted to bribe a police officer into testifying that Farrell had been in a relationship with the victim and that he'd shot her in a fit of jealousy. The DA reportedly sought to fabricate a motive for the shooting so that prosecutors could upgrade the charge to murder. Jones's criminal indictment in September of 2021 also indicated that he'd bribed multiple prosecutors in his office in connection to other cases. On October the 4th, Jones was suspended from office by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. A month later, the disgraced DA entered last-minute guilty pleas on 4 of the felony counts levied against him. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and an additional 4 years of probation. Number 7. Rudy Delgado. A former judge from Texas named Rudy Delgado was taken into police custody in February of 2018, roughly 2 years after the FBI had launched a probe into his activities while serving on the Hidalgo County District Court. The investigation uncovered that the 66-year-old had accepted thousands of dollars in bribes from a defense attorney named Noe Perez between 2008 and 2016. In exchange for the cash sums, Delgado had allegedly agreed to issue favorable judicial outcomes in cases involving Perez's clients. The criminal defense lawyer reportedly concealed the bribe money in 6 packs of beer, which he then gave to Delgado. The FBI also learned that Perez had gifted a $15,000 pickup truck to Delgado in an effort to curry the judge's favor. Following the investigation, Delgado was charged with conspiracy, federal program bribery, Travel Act bribery, and obstruction of justice. The latter charge reportedly stemmed from a message the judge had sent to Perez in which he attempted to pass off the bribes as campaign donations. In July of 2019, Delgado was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. Number 6. Ryan Bishti and Frank Partridge. In 2009, entrepreneur Ryan Bishti founded a nightclub called Cirque Le Soir in the Soho area of central London. Before long, the club grew into a hotspot for celebrities, having reportedly attracted the likes of Cara Delevingne, Miley Cyrus, and Rihanna since its opening. As Cirque Le Soir rose to prominence, however, Bishti allegedly became a central figure in a bribery scandal involving officers of the Westminster Police. Between February of 2013 and June of 2015, the club owner reportedly conspired with a sergeant named Frank Partridge in the Westminster Police's licensing unit. Although the specific details of their relationship were not immediately reported, Bishti and Partridge had allegedly agreed to a deal in which the former and his club were afforded certain liberties by local police, reputedly in exchange for cash. The scheme was uncovered by investigators from the Directorate of Professional Standards Anti-Corruption Command. In December of 2021, a total of 7 defendants, including Bishti and Partridge, appeared during a hearing at Westminster Magistrates Court. One of the individuals accused of criminal activity was Terry Neal, the owner of a security firm named TSS, which reportedly provided door staff to Cirque Le Soir and other Soho nightclubs. The suspects were each charged with conspiracy to commit bribery, and they were scheduled to stand trial in April of 2023. Number 5. Ariel Engert. At approximately 2 a.m. on September the 1st of 2015, police officers in Clearwater, Florida, spotted a car driving erratically on the roadway. They pulled the vehicle over and asked its driver, 24-year-old Ariel Engert, to step out onto the sidewalk. The young woman then underwent a series of field sobriety tests, all of which she failed. The officers consequently arrested her and brought her to Pinellas County Jail. Engert was charged with driving under the influence and possession of marijuana, which had reportedly been found in her vehicle. According to a website called The Smoking Gun, Engert attempted to bribe multiple deputies while she was in custody. She had allegedly offered to engage in intimate relations with a deputy named Brian Sudbrink in exchange for him allowing her to go free, a proposition which the officer declined. When a body search revealed that Engert had hidden a packet of cocaine in her undergarments, the young woman tried to bribe 2 more officers with the same offer she'd extended to Sudbrink. The deputies, named as Obed Munoz and Eric Biddle, promptly and decisively rejected her indecent proposals. Engert ultimately faced additional charges of narcotics possession and introduction of contraband into a detention facility. Number 4. The California DMV bribery scandal. An investigation into alleged corruption within the California Department of Motor Vehicles uncovered a bribery conspiracy pertaining to the production and distribution of fraudulent driver's licenses. A criminal indictment was publicly released by the U.S. Department of Justice in May of 2021. The press release detailed how several people from the Los Angeles area had paid off DMV employees in order to illegally obtain licenses for which they would have otherwise been ineligible. The professed ringleader of the operation was identified as 46-year-old Atanasio Villegas, who'd reportedly worked as a licensed registration examiner at the DMV office in Torrance. Villegas communicated with brokers who accepted bribe money from individuals seeking fraudulent IDs. These brokers supplied the corrupt DMV worker with the client's personal identifying information. Villegas then solicited the help of other DMV employees. who falsified information in the department's database to make it appear as if the applicant had passed all the tests and requirements necessary towards obtaining a license. It was reported that Villegas and his co-conspirators had produced and issued more than 100 fake IDs while operating their scam from April to October of 2016. In 2021, multiple people were criminally charged in relation to the case, including Villegas, other DMV employees, and individuals who were found to have illegally acquired their driver's licenses by way of the illicit scheme. Number 3. Babak Bromand. 53-year-old Babak Bromand had served as an FBI special agent in Northern California for 2 decades before retiring in 2019. Shortly thereafter, allegations surfaced that between 2015 and 2017, Bromand had accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes from a lawyer with ties to an Armenian criminal element. During the 2-year period in which he was accused of taking part in the bribery scheme, the former FBI agent had reportedly been working on national security matters at the San Francisco field office. The corrupt attorney, identified as Edgar Sargassian, was alleged to have given Bromand cash and expensive gifts, which included a motorcycle, hotel stays, and escort services in exchange for confidential information. A federal criminal complaint against Bromand stated that he'd also used his power and privilege as an FBI employee to help Sargassian evade detection by law enforcement. It later emerged that the former special agent had used a portion of the reported $200,000 in bribe money he'd accepted to make a down payment on a $1.3 million vacation home near Lake Tahoe. Following his retirement, Bromand had worked as a campus investigator at the University of California, Berkeley, until his arrest on April the 24th of 2020. He was thereupon charged with conspiracy to commit bribery of a public official in April of 2021. He was also charged with 3 counts of making false statements to a government agency after it had been discovered that he'd falsified federal documents to mask the true origin of the bribe money. Number 2. The arrest of Jirapong Thanapat. On August the 5th of 2021, Jirapong Thanapat, age 24, was taken into police custody with his girlfriend after they'd been caught selling illegal substances in northeast Thailand. The suspect reportedly offered Thai police roughly $25,000 in an effort to facilitate his and his partner's immediate release. The officers initially accepted Thanapat's bribe, but they subsequently attempted to extort even more money from him by way of torture. The police chief, identified as Thetisan Uttanapon, allegedly wrapped 5 plastic bags around Thanapat's head and taped his hands together. The chief then proceeded to shake the suspect violently while trying to get him to double the amount of money he'd offered them. Thanapat eventually collapsed unconscious, and the officers' attempts to revive him proved unsuccessful. He was transported to a hospital where he was pronounced dead the following day. An autopsy would eventually confirm initial suspicions that he'd succumbed to deliberate suffocation. Uttanapon reportedly recorded the death as a drug overdose and released Thanapat's girlfriend on the condition that she not reveal the truth about the incident. A junior officer at the police station later leaked CCTV footage of Thanapat being tortured, which prompted the Thai Prime Minister to order an investigation into the man's death. Several officers were taken into custody following the probe, while Uttanapon eventually surrendered to the authorities after he'd initially gone on the run. Number 1. Operation Varsity Blues. On March the 12th of 2019, federal prosecutors in Boston, Massachusetts, publicly disclosed the details of a vast criminal conspiracy centered on bribing admissions officials at several notable American universities. The FBI's investigation, which had been codenamed Operation Varsity Blues, exposed a total of 53 individuals who'd taken part in the bribery scandal between 2011 and 2018. 33 of the defendants were parents of college applicants who'd allegedly paid more than $25 million in total bribe money to William Rick Singer, the man responsible for orchestrating the scheme. Federal investigators learned that Singer had coordinated the illicit operation through the 2 college counseling firms he owned, Key Worldwide Foundation and the Edge College and Career Network. After accepting money from parents, Singer would fraudulently inflate applicants' entrance exam test scores. If the falsified test results didn't strengthen the application enough for the student to be accepted into the university directly, Singer would often resort to simply using monetary bribes to influence college admissions decisions. He also allegedly fabricated elite sports credentials on behalf of certain students so as to award them athletic scholarships that they wouldn't have otherwise been granted. In addition to Singer and the parents from whom he'd accepted bribes, the criminal indictments also implicated staff members at various prestigious universities including Yale, Stanford, Georgetown, Northwestern, and the University of Southern California. After news of the scandal had been made public, it emerged that a number of the parents alleged to have been involved were prominent public figures including actors Lori Loughlin, William H. Macy and Felicity Huffman, as well as business people Gamal Aziz, Manuel Enriquez, and Jane Buckingham. The maximum penalty for the charges against Singer was 65 years in prison and a $1.25 million fine. The conspiracy's first criminal trial, which reportedly involved Aziz and another parent named John Wilson, began on September the 8th of 2021. Both men were convicted the following month after the jury assigned to their case had deliberated for roughly 10 hours. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be married to someone who is smart but ugly or someone who is pretty but dumb? And why? Let us know in the comments section below.